All right, Laura, moments ago, the Houston Texans claimed Diontae Johnson on waivers, and that means that Diontae Johnson will be spending Christmas in the company of the Ravens, with Houston hosting his former team on Wednesday. Obviously, the Texans lost Tank Dell for the season. They've lost Stephon Diggs for the season. They need help, and they now have put in a claim for Diontae Johnson. There were a number of teams that were considering putting in a claim. It'll be interesting to see which teams behind the Texans may have also put in claims, because I suspect there'll be at least one other that put in a claim for Diontae Johnson, but it doesn't matter because Houston had priority. Houston gets Diontae Johnson, and Houston was looking for some added help for the postseason, and it found it in the form of the former Ravens wide receiver.
Yeah, Dan, how much of a help can this be for that Texans offense?
Well, it was needed. It's two-part. They've been decimated, to Shefty's point, by the injuries. They need someone relatively reliable opposite Nico Collins, and that was going to be that Tank Dell type of player. And obviously the horrific injury, thoughts and prayers, hopefully he's going to heal up. So it was needed. It's also like maybe a last opportunity for Diontae Johnson. This is a super talented guy that's on his third team this season. It didn't work out in Carolina. He gets traded to Baltimore, a great opportunity for him there, and it doesn't work out there. Now he goes to another playoff football team with an elite quarterback. He's got to take advantage of this. So for him, show up and prove that you are that talented player that also produces. And for Houston, you need it to work out, because for you to have any chance in the playoffs, you're going to have somebody outside of Nico Collins to try and impact and hold the defense.
Hey, you feel for C.J. Stroud. Tank Dell, one of his closest friends. You could see he didn't even want to leave the ambulance as they were taking Tank Dell away. All right, so the Ravens dominated the Steelers as we get you ready for this Christmas Day matchup. 34-17 on Saturday, outrushing Pittsburgh by 103 yards. It's Baltimore's 10th game outrushing their opponents by 100 or more yards, tied with the 1949 Eagles. The Texans lost to the Chiefs, and Stroud was under all kinds of pressure again. Stroud has been under pressure on 36% of his dropbacks this season, 31st in the NFL out of 34 qualified quarterbacks. The pressure likely to continue this week. The Ravens defense has 47 sacks this season, second most in the NFL, behind only the Broncos. And Stroud has taken 47 sacks this season, which is second most in the NFL, behind only Caleb Williams. All right, so let's talk about this matchup. RC, what do you want to see from Houston in terms of a defensive game plan for Lamar and company on Christmas Day?
Actually, that's what I want to learn. I want to learn what DeMeco Ryans is going to do. How many people will he employ to the run to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry? We go back to last year's game, and Christian Harris, who's been back the last few games for the Houston Texans, was huge in the Lamar Jackson sort of called quarterback run. And we also watched Derek Stingley, the number one corner of the Houston Texans, be matched up one-on-one against Zay Flowers. I believe that this passing game is more diverse this year. I believe that the run game is more difficult to stop. And so if you're DeMeco Ryans and you expect that it can be difficult offensively without Tank Dell, how are you going to slow this team down and make them one-dimensional in some way where it's only the pass game? I think that could be extremely difficult to do, but if they don't accomplish that, it could be an extremely long day defensively.
Yeah, Ryan, Christian Harris was huge, and yet Lamar still ran for 100 yards on the Houston Texans in the playoff game, right? Like, it's so difficult, and it's especially challenging for this Texans defense because I think they're very good against the pass, but QB runs has been a weakness. You just saw that against an injured Patrick Mahomes. They actually are 27th in EPA per play against QB runs this year. Some of that is because they play a lot of man coverage on late downs, but going back and watching their approach against Lamar last time, Ryan, it was a lot of quarters. The problem was, there's a couple problems. A couple times they just didn't have contain on zone read, but the other problem was the safeties were just playing too deep. So if I'm DeMeco Ryans, I'm probably asking one of those safeties to play a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage to try to contain Lamar. And then I cannot stress this enough. You have to maintain your integrity in the rush, because if you take a four-man rush and there is a lane 8 is taking off, and we have seen that time and time again.
I love the coverage point. The concern for me is the ball has gone over their head so much this year defensively. Yeah. I mean, Kansas City almost hit another one last week, and it just off Justin Watson's hands. I think the challenge is a little bit what we saw last week in Baltimore's willingness to run the football against Pittsburgh's defense. And so if you're Houston, you watch this team with all their motion runs. And for active linebackers or aggressive linebackers, that's the concern if you're Houston defensively. When they put those 2 tight ends on and those motions, you know, the backers trying to guess where the hole is going to be or play over the top or backdoor it. The big thing for me was how good of a job Baltimore, both backs, really, obviously Derrick Henry did of just pressing the hole. And you guys have heard me say this so often. Houston defensively, they play with great vision. They are ultra aggressive, downhill, front 7 when it comes to stopping the run. If you are ultra aggressive downhill and you don't pay attention to some of the displacement that motion is going to show or give, it creates some of those seams. We saw it again. That would be my concern with Houston against their run game.
Dan, you know what's also very difficult about the Baltimore Ravens? It's not the pre-snap motion only. It's also the misdirection after the snap. Look at the snap you just showed with now you have Zay Flowers going to the front side with the ball coming out the back end. Or it might be Patrick Ricard, and he's going to seal one way, and you have Derrick Henry running the other way. It's so difficult to know where all the misdirection is going to lead. And once Derrick Henry gets that hole and he can run downhill, he's one of the most unstoppable forces in all of football.
Yeah, they're one of the most pick your poison offenses in the NFL. All right, Swag, what's coming up next on NFL Live?
Y'all know what's coming up. It's Monday, damn it. It's BMB. And first of all, y'all want to get on me about being cold and have Miss Lisa laughing at me and RC talking about how long. Look at Jalen Phillips. He played football, all right? He played football, and he got his parka on, warming up with the fur on the top. I told RC, I don't know what it is about us big guys, but that cold gets in our insulation, and it never leaves. I don't know if y'all metabolisms are burning faster, what's going on. But once we get cold, we are shot. We can't afford to get cold. That's how you come out and warm up for a game in below zero, Phillips. Let's get it popping.